Welcome to the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft podcast. I'm your host, Chris Spear. So here we're going to talk about gear, grit, and the kind of stories you only get around a fire. It's all about learning, adapting, and keeping your faith strong. So whether you're a seasoned outdoorsman or just looking to unplug and reconnect, you're in the right place. So pull up a chair by the fire and let's get into it.
All right, welcome back to the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft podcast. And if you notice, I actually do have the flashlight on me tonight if you're watching the video, because we are down here at Camp What the Heck at nighttime, although it is only 5:30 in the afternoon. We got the fire rolling in the fire pit right in front of me. You might see a little reflections. You can see the reflections bouncing off of the backside of my my little tablet here. And then I got the fire rolling. It's starting to cool off a little bit. So tonight I want to talk to you about something simple. Something most folks overlook until they really need it. Something that most folks give second thought to. A lot of people practice these bushcraft skills and survival skills, and me, I was included in this bunch. I did not practice this skill as often as I should have, because I didn't deem it necessary. I was in the military. I have used these methods and these things before, but I did not think that it's something that you need to practice. And let me tell you, you really need to practice with these, because if you do not, you will forget. I don't care how many years you were in the military. You can and will forget how to use these skills. And I'm talking about the compass and the map. A compass and a map. And I'm telling you right now, there has been a time when both of these items had decided to test me a whole lot more than I really wanted to. So pull up your chair and let me tell you about the story before we get into the nuts and bolts of it. So I was about 5 miles from my camp was about 5 miles from my truck. And out in this particular area, there is zero cell phone service whatsoever. None. And it was getting to the point to where it was the next morning. We were getting to the point where it was packing up and get ready to go, head back through the woods. And I had my map and my compass. I had everything set. And if you don't know, when it comes to a map and a compass, you have to orient your compass to your map. And hopefully here in a little while, we're going to get elbow deep into that. So it was early morning, and we were packing up, and we were getting ready to start the 5 mile hike back to the truck. And the only thing out there was just the tall timbers, the hills, and some streams here and there. And there was a creek that we walked along an edge of a creek for a good ways. And I had a map. And if you're watching the video, I have the map of the area right here in my hands. This is another copy, but I had the map and the compass. This very compass. I used this very compass. And this is one of those Sunto M3. All right. So it's a good compass for what we needed, and it did exactly what I needed it to do. But here comes the thing. Here comes the situation. I am 5 miles away from truck, 5 miles away from cell phone service. And there is literally no cell service out there. And, you know, by this time I can't remember if I didn't have any battery juice on my phone. I think that was the case because I have a GPS, and that GPS would tell me where to go. I think my phone was dead this time, and I had no way to navigate other than a map and compass. So I knew where I needed to go. I oriented my compass to my map, and I started walking in the direction that I needed to walk to back to my truck. Now, 5 miles is a substantial distance, and you could get really lost in 5 miles if you don't know which way you're going or how to go. In 5 miles, you can show up 5 miles off target. You can show up way off target. You can get turned around pretty good. So, 5 miles, it may not seem like a lot to some of these through hikers and stuff like that, but 5 miles is a substantial amount. Well, I get going through the woods, and I set the bearing and everything on my compass, and I'm looking at the map, and every so often I'll stop and I'll make sure we're pointing in the right direction, walking in the right direction. And this particular time I stopped and I reached to grab the map, and the map was gone. And I couldn't believe it, because the map was gone. It had fallen out of my pocket. It was a laminated map that I had specifically laminated for a trip because I knew it was going to rain, and I wanted to keep the map safe as best I could. So it was, as my brother says, I turned to get the map, and there it was, gone. Well, there it was, gone. So I just stood there for a minute, and before I'd left camp that morning, I set everything. I set my travel arrow. I took my bearing from the camp and in the direction in which we were heading. And then I lined the orientating arrow with the needle, locking it in, and like you're supposed to. And that little line on that compass was the breadcrumb trail, my safety net, the one that would get me back if everything else fell apart. And so I followed that bearing that I took that morning, and I would just walk. I would take it out and find a tree in the distance, and I would walk to that tree, and then I'd take it out, find another tree. That way I'd stay straight and keep going the same distance. I didn't do the whole pick it up, line of sight thing, look through it, never, do all this stuff. I'm just talking basic navigation skills. You can get as detailed as you want in these things, but you do not have to be that detailed. It can be extremely basic. So somewhere in the woods, the map fell out. I never heard it fall out. I never felt it fall out. I never saw it catch on anything. It was just gone. And I reached out after a while to pull it out, and it wasn't there. And to my surprise, I was just like, what the heck? And that hits quick. It really does. It really hits quick. I mean, it hits you hard in the chest, and you just get that lump inside your throat like, golly. But by this time, I'd already walked a little way, and I was just like, man. So that will never happen to me again. Well, I can't say never. I mean, I can't say it will never happen to you either. But I can tell you this. I will take more precautions than before, I should say. So now here's the deal. This is why you need to learn your map and compass. This is why I always go over the basics, because basics are exactly that. They are your basis. Your basis. They are the beginning level of your knowledge. And if you keep practicing the basics, the rest of the stuff is just lanyard. The rest of the stuff just falls into place. And the basics, like, just how to read a map, and how to orient your compass to the map. And I'm not going to go over complicated stuff like paste beads and, traversing and, stuff like that. I'm just talking about how to orient your compass to your map and just use your compass to get you from one place to another. That's it. If you want, in a little while, I'm going to go over more details about another article on how to completely use this. And I'm telling you, I mentioned it in the book, that this is the most detailed article about how to use a compass and a map. And I guess we'll just go off script and we'll just go ahead and do that now. So over on, let me go back up to the top here, outdoorsgenerations.com, outdoorsgenerations.com. There's a gentleman that wrote an article in October of 22. His name is Ethan Shaw, and I even referenced his material in the book. And this is the best article that I found on how to, use a compass, the ultimate guide to navigation. And this guy has done an amazing job of putting everything together that you need to know on how to use a compass and a map. Now, in the book, I touched on it very, very, very briefly, and then I deflected off to this, because I wasn't going to teach maps and compasses in there, but I did go over the basics of what a compass does, what it has. And, there's a compass should have a magnetic needle, a magnetized needle. It should have an orientating arrow. It should have a travel arrow, and it should have an azimuth ring. And those four things are what you really need in a compass. It does not matter the name brand. It does not matter. I mean, sure, you can use a cheaper compass from, what's that name of that one company? They're in all the camping gears, and they're just a real cheap compass. You can get one for $5, $6, something like that. And I have used that compass before with zero problems. And, then you can move on your way up to $100 or $100 something compass like the Sunto M3s. And then you got the lens-static compasses the military uses and all these different types of compasses. There's so many compasses out there. Each one of them has a different thing. But a compass, a basic compass, should have a magnetized needle, an orientating ring or arrow, a travel arrow, and an azimuth ring. And so these things right there are all the items required for you to navigate in the great outdoors. So if you do not have all the skills in the world to travel and do all these different things that you see on all these big wig survival schools and stuff like that online, at the very basic, if you have these four items on one compass, then you are good to go. Then you're going to get over into your topographical map, and it's going to talk about contour lines, your scale, your legend. And, a lot of people are scared to death of a topographical map. But all a topographical map is a 3D plane drawn on 2D paper. And what do I mean by that? So now they have programs like for what was the name of that one? Unreal Engine. If you want to draw a landscape or something to that effect and make it look realistic, and that's what they use for all these movies that you're watching is Unreal Engine. That they draw these landscapes in there. Well, what they're doing is they're drawing a topographical map contour lines, and these contour lines represent either is it close together or far apart. And if it's far apart, that means the further distance, the closer it is, the steeper distance. And so these mountains are drawn with these contour lines, and they take this 2D map, put it inside here, and it will spit out a 3D image. And you've seen this if you're into some kind of sci-fi stuff. You've seen this before in sci-fi movies, I promise. So, you know, when I was growing up, we did not have a GPS. We did not have cell phones to give us directions. We didn't have all these great things. What we had was a Rand McNally. And if you know what I'm talking about, raise your hand. You know, we had a Rand McNally. We had an atlas. We had a book that had a bunch of maps for your state, or if you were traveling intrastate or interstate, you know, it had all the different states you were traveling through, so you can plan your trip. It had all the roads, all the maps. This was Google Maps in a book, and that's what we used to get from point A to point B. If you were driving from South Mississippi to North Mississippi, you used an atlas to make sure you were on the right road. And I used an atlas all the way up through 2001. 2001, I used an atlas to drive from Anchorage, Alaska to Picayune, Mississippi, to Biloxi, Mississippi, where Keesler Air Force Base is. And we drove. It took us 7.5, almost 8 days to get there. But we used an atlas. That was how we did it, because cell phones were, they were a thing, but the actual iPhones didn't come out till much later. Skeeter bugs. And it was crazy how, you know, we had to have an atlas back then, and we got where we was going to go. And what's funny is that using those old school methods, you remembered more. Now you just type it in and forget it. But back then you typed it in and then you could remember how to get to that place. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about topographical maps. So today, outdoor maps are typically topographic maps based off of the USGS, the United States Geological Survey. You can download and print practically any topographical map of the United States. And I left the link in the book. It is ngmdb.usgs.gov/topoview/viewer. So you might have to put that. I'll try to remember to put this link in with this podcast. But that link will allow you to download any free. You can download any topographical map of any location for free. And they update them every so many years, and they're free. You do not have to go and pay $30, $40. Like, I've watched some videos where people will go and pay for maps to go out into the woods and pay $30 and $40 when you can print that puppy out yourself. You can download the file and take it to a print shop and print it out for cheap and get it in a full size map, like a real map, like you would buy. The same thing. It's crazy. So I had several maps printed out that I would actually use as wall decoration or whatnot in my office. I hang them up because I think they're pretty cool, and it's the places I usually go camping. So I'm able to look up there and point where I want to go camping and what I want to do. But anyway, back to the outdoors generations, and you can come over here and it says, why should I learn to use a compass? And it tells you everything that you need to do. You know, your smartphone might die, your GPS may act up, or you didn't upgrade the firmware, and so it's not wanting to work right. And so if you're going to go learn how to use a compass, I'm telling you now, go to this website, outdoorsgenerations.com, and Ethan Shaw is the author. And I will put the link to this in the description of this video or podcast. And, this thing, it tells you everything about what compass to use, how to use it. It shows you how to orientate it to your map. It shows you, what's the difference between baseplate compasses. And, that's the one that we use here. That's what the Sunto is. It is a baseplate compass, and it consists of a rotating bezel set atop a see-through square. And that square is the base plate. Within the compass case, you have a free swinging compass needle, and it's got fluid in there to allow it to move around freely. It's got parallel lines, and those lines can be used to match with the north-south grid lines of the topo map. Now, if I'm speaking French or another language to you, that's okay, because you're going to go to this website and you're going to download this article. Excuse me. So you're going to go over there, and then after reading it, you're going to know exactly what to do. And this, if I was to start a class on teaching people how to use a compass and how to use a map, this article on this website is the one that I would use. I do not understand. Wait, hold on. I don't know if I could do this without it being, hey, you should have heard that, me knocking on the table, because this is important stuff right here. So now I probably got ahead of myself a lot from my notes. And yes, I did. So now I got to find myself here and find where I left off. So we did that with the compass. We learned, we went to this website, and we're downloading that article, and on our own time, in our own way, we're going to learn how to use our compass and how to read our map. Now, I'm probably going to do some more videos here in the very near this week, and do some more videos on using compass for the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft website. I'll probably do a blog post on there on how to use your compass, and a blog post on how to use the map. So primitive-camping.com is where I'm going to post these, and then I'll do some videos for the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft YouTube page. And yeah, that's it. And then I'll post those up there on how to do this. But we always seem to take for granted the things that seem to be the easiest, and they turn out not to be the easiest. You can get yourself really lost, and you could really get yourself in a bind by heading out and not knowing where you're at and just heading out. Look at these guys, these hunters over in the Midwest right now, that I don't know if they've been found. I don't know if the last I heard, they called the search off. Well, I don't know how experienced these individuals were. I don't know. Usually if you're going hunting in the mountains, you're usually pretty experienced about how to do that. Hunting in the mountains is totally different than, let's say, traveling through South Mississippi. South Mississippi, you're traveling through swamps and stuff like that. So it's very easy to get lost in South Mississippi. And I'm pretty sure it's very easy in the mountains to slip, fall, or to get lost, break a leg or something like that. And every place you go has its own set of challenges. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what terrain you're in. It doesn't matter where you are on the planet. Every geological place that you go has its own set of challenges, whether it be desert, whether it be ice, whether it be the swamps of South Mississippi, South Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, whether it be the hills up above us, whether it be the mountains over to the east and the west, whether it be the plains, anywhere in these great United States, anywhere in the world, really, it is a challenge. Each terrain presents a unique challenge to individuals, and that's why people enjoy it so much. So now we get all the way out there. I lost my map. I found my way back to the truck. And I kept following that arrow that I set that you would learn how to do when you go to this. You're going to learn how to box the arrow. You're going to learn how to set your declination and all that good stuff. And then it's going to be, let me break it down. What saved me that day, because this is where the skill meets the story, is that I set the bearing before I left camp. That's number one. Number two, I aligned the travel arrow on the compass with the direction I needed to go. All right. I didn't rely on the map alone. I used it to set my route, but my compass was my anchor. And so I used the compass to tell me where to go. When the map vanished, the bearing was still there. I still had the bearing set on my compass. All right. A compass had a few simple parts that matter most: the needle, the orientating arrow, the travel arrow. We just went over all this, the bezel ring, all those meridian lines that match the map grid. That's your whole tool. And that's your whole lifeline when everything else quits. So when you lose your map or whatever like that, like Ethan Shaw talks about, you can go a long way using handrails, landmarks, and catch points. But once all that disappears, when it's just you and the trees, that bearing is going to be your backbone. If your aim is off a little, you still know which side your baseline is going to hit. If you hit an obstacle, you can compensate. If you drift, you can correct. It's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. Make sense? Not easy, but simple. So here's the thing that sticks with me the most. All I needed was a direction. I didn't have a perfect plan. I didn't have a detailed map. I didn't have a path cut out in front of me. I just had the direction I needed to go. And that's what this compass gave me. Not the whole way, not a step-by-step guide. It didn't show me that traffic was jammed up ahead by this log. It didn't say that there was a game warden sitting in the tree waiting for me to walk by to give me a ticket for whatever. It was just a direction for me to walk into. So that's the part that really, it's hard for me to underscore how important it is for you to learn these things. And if I have to, I've been having a lot of people ask me if I teach private lessons here lately, and I'm really thinking about setting up a course where people can come and we can go do a camp for a couple of days. And this is not like your survival bushcraft camp. It's going to be your hike into the woods, set up your camp, learn a few tricks, hike out of the woods type deal. And you're only going to be taking what you can fit on your back and stuff like that. So if you're interested in something like that, please let me know. And I think it'll be a great thing to do. Now, if you have been with me all this time, you already know where I'm going, because the truth about the compass and the directions, the scripture that I'm fixing to read is everything that my life hangs on. It's Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. And let's consult the word here. This is the catchphrase. This is the motto. This is what I have built all of the primitive camping and bushcraft and spirit outdoors on. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. That verse is the anchor of this show. That verse is the anchor of the spirit outdoors, the primitive camping and bushcraft, the essence. I say it at the end of every episode. I say it at the end of videos, not because it's a slogan, but because it's a compass. It is, it is a compass. If you trust in the Lord, he will guide you. He will direct you. He will show you which way to go. He is your compass. You don't get the whole map. You don't get to see the whole route of life. And you don't get to see tomorrow's terrain. There's going to be roadblocks. There's going to be things. There's going to be creeks you're going to have to cross. There's going to have divides and ravines and all these things that you have to navigate. But he's going to give you the direction. You get enough to take the next step, enough to walk with confidence, even when nothing around you looks familiar. You know, the Bible is your map. God is your compass. Sometimes you lose the map. Sometimes life knocks you for a loop. You have struggles in your marriage. You got money problems. You got health news. You got health problems. You got kids, health problems with your kids, stuff like that. That is discouraging. That's the kind of discouragement that nobody hears about unless you tell them. You can have an entire meltdown inside and nobody will ever know unless you open up and tell them. But the bearing is still there. The direction you need to travel is still there. And the one who set that bearing, he's not guessing. He knows which way you need to go. He knows where you need to head. He knows the way. If you acknowledge him, if you stop long enough to breathe and point your heart back towards him, he will direct your path. He will, the part that hangs up with me is that it may not be a straight line. It may be a detour. You may have to go over here to do this and come over here to do this and go there. I mean, if you want to talk about detours, read the book of Acts. That's some detours right there. I'm not saying he's going to remove all the obstacles in your life, but he's always going to point you in the direction you need to go. He always points you towards the trail that leads you home. So, my encouragement to you this evening is learn to use your compass. Learn to read a map. In the book, it is page 23 through 27 that I touch on it. Because there's so much there, I could have spent chapters writing about a book, writing about a compass and a map. So learn to read the map, learn to set the bearing and walk it out, because the woods don't forgive ignorance at all. They don't. And beyond the woods, learn to do the same with your life. Set your direction with the one who knows the land better than you ever will. Trust him with the next ridge, the next draw, the next shadow. And when you lose your map, don't panic. The bearing has not changed. All right, so thanks for sitting around the fire with me this evening on this, November? Yeah, November evening underneath the tarp of Camp What the Heck. And I really had a good time talking about this tonight. And like I said, I'll be doing some more videos, some more stuff like that about maps and compasses. But really, the links will be in the appropriate places. Check them out. I'm seriously, go check this out. If you have any doubt on how to read a compass or how to read a map, go to these websites, download a map from the USGS, and then read this website from the Outdoors Generations. They, combined with the book Primitive Camping and Bushcraft, which you can pick up on the website primitive-camping.com, will help you navigate through the woods and get to your camp safely and come back to your vehicle safely. You won't have a search party sent out after you. Although I have had search parties sent after me, and I think we talked about it here before. Anyway, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining me this evening, and I will see you next time in the next video or the next podcast. Remember, in all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths.
Thanks for sitting around the fire with me today. If this episode gave you something to think about, if it helped you feel a little bit more prepared, or it even stirred your faith a tiny bit, go ahead and share it with someone else who might need it as well. We don't go camping to run away from life. We come out here to slow down and to recharge. So grab another log, throw it on the fire, and remember this. In all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. I'll see you next time. God bless you.